Hey everybody, welcome to our monthly live stream for TLB Club, the Thought Leader Brand Club. My name is Umar. I am a motivational speaker by trade. I've done 1,000 keynotes and workshops across 4 continents over the last 20 years, mostly talking about relationship building, networking, team building. Then I got into personal branding, thought leadership, and now I talk about TEDx talks and digital presence. And I've also done 5 TEDx talks, and I am also a TEDx coach, and I'm also the founder of the Thought Leader Brand Club, which is a membership community designed to help small business owners level up in all areas of their business, whether it's sales, marketing, pitching, negotiation, digital presence, voice, content strategy. We have a great community of people there that are part of this. And today's topic this month is on personal branding. How can personal branding transform your life? And I have 3 amazing personal branding experts. I am so mind-boggled and excited that they're here today. If you are joining us, make sure you say hello in the chat box. You can say hello. We love to hear from people who are coming into this conversation. So definitely make sure you say hello. Tell us where you're calling in from. We'd love to kind of see people are coming into the call. So with that, I think the best way to get going actually is Michelle, William, and Diana. One of the things I want to get into is the story, and I have a personal branding story that got me into personal branding. I kind of want to hear your story, but in terms of how you kind of got into it and how you decided to leverage personal branding as a key focus for yourself. So, and we'll go from top to bottom. So Michelle, and then hand off to William, and then to Diana. Go ahead. I'd love to hear your story.
Yes, thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'm Michelle B. Griffin from Pensacola, Florida. It's wonderful to be here. What is personal branding? Well, I think for me, it stems from my early years in PR, and it's just a natural progression. I think the combination of when I bring my personal branding PR together, they're a natural marriage. But for me personally, I started personal branding myself. And when I realized being stuck after 5 years, just consuming content, courses, and credentials, trying to get out there, realizing that is not getting me anywhere. It's putting yourself out there, more specifically, getting visible, branding yourself, positioning yourself, and then even elevating yourself with publicity. And that's exactly what I do with my own Your Lane personal branding framework, books, and workshops. But I'm a firm believer, I don't know if those can see, I know I'm kind of small, but behind me on my shelf, you'll see put yourself out there graphic. In fact, I talked about it so much in 2021. Shout out to Martin Borens, who's a graphic designer in UK. He sent me this beautiful illustrated graphic. And I'm just a firm believer in visibility will bring you advantages. My tagline is visibility is not vanity. Visibility is being valuable because it's being in service to others. So great to be here today.
I will pick it up from there.
Yes, William, please.
So there's no silence in the room. In 1997, I read the article, The Brand Called You by Tom Peters. I was working in branding for IBM. I loved my job. I loved my team. It was all great. And the article was so inspiring and so connected to everything I believe in the world. I put the magazine down and said, I'm going to start the first ever personal branding company, which I did not actually because the next week my boss said, hey, do you want to move to Europe to run branding for Europe? And I had to decide, start a company, move to Europe. And I moved to Europe. And by the time I got into it, there were already 4 people doing it. But the thing about personal branding that I absolutely love is it's permission to be yourself. It's not permission, it's a mandate to be yourself. And I think conformity has been the word in business and in work, and it really strips us from the unique value that we can contribute. And this opportunity to bring your whole self to work as not only something that makes you feel better, but allows you to deliver greater value in something that is only available from you was just, I am on a mission to banish conformity and embrace individuality and give everyone the opportunity to have a really rich, fulfilling life where they can achieve their purpose. And that's what personal branding is about. So I thank forever Tom Peters. I spoke to him just before he retired, and I said, you don't know how many people's lives you have changed. And I'm so fortunate that it was mine as well.
Amazing, amazing. Well, interestingly, I read William's book and Tom Peters' book back in the day in 2010, 2011. That's how I discovered personal branding. And for me, my story was that I always struggled with standing out, having growing up back and forth in Hong Kong, Canada. Where do I fit in? So my mission is really about helping people to differentiate their unique value, build an influential brand and network so that they can attract more opportunities. And I really believe that when you are really building your brand, like I have this saying, is that you have the upper hand when you have a great brand because you are more in demand. And my story was led me to, and really doubling down on personal branding the last several years, was that it has helped me led to becoming a LinkedIn top voice here in Canada, and also becoming an 11-time LinkedIn learning instructor. And it was because I really promoted my brand and becoming a speaker for the UN 7 times, where people discovered me online. So now I'm on a mission to really helping people to build their online brand so that they can attract global opportunities. And it's just so exciting to see. And I'll tell you a very interesting story. I really believe like wedding planning is like, personal branding is like wedding planning. It's all about how people experience you, right? How do you want them to remember you? And part of it is around perception management. And one of the interesting story this year was that I had someone who reached out to me for coaching, for executive coaching, to prepare for a role for CEO job at a $1 billion company. He was referred to me from a former client from a decade ago. And so this really speaks about the power of personal branding, of your reputation matters. And because of that, I was able to land this client. It was a 6-figure coaching contract. And I really believe the power of personal branding, of delivering great work, building great relationships, and being your most authentic self.
So, thanks so much for that, guys. And I'll kind of share my personal branding story, which was, I've been a speaker for many, many years. And, I did brand marketing before I became a speaker. And I studied marketing before I went to brand marketing. But I was speaking and I was talking about networking, and I was doing a whole networking session. And I talked about the ability of, look, you have to get people to remember you. You got to get people to you have to create great experience with people. And so you have to, and ultimately, it's the brand of you, so like it's a personal thing, it's a personal brand. And I remember saying that, and people are like, oh, I really like this idea of personal branding. This is like back in 2010. I like how you positioned it, like, your networking, relationship building, it's a personal branding thing. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And next thing you know, people really were into personal branding as a thing. And I started talking about it more and more, eventually creating a model, creating a course and a program. And it became a big part of the DYPB Discovery Personal Brand event, the conferences we ran, and we still do LinkedIn local meetups today. So that's something that kind of came back in the day. And I realized, I mean, for me, I listen to my audience, which I think is a big part of personal branding, to understand how people see you and perceive you and listen to them. I want to go back, though, a little bit. Well, I'm going to ask you, when did you first latch on that this was a really interesting idea? I want to get really specific. Was there a specific moment or epiphany where, like, you know what, this is a kind of cool thing I really want to explore more? When did that happen?
Well, literally, when I read the article, and I will tell you, it was not an idea for a business for me. I had no desire to be an entrepreneur. I loved working for the man, and it was my thing, and I was happy with it. And it's the only thing that ever, because you know what, I just really loved my job. I know a lot of people don't necessarily. When I read the article, I thought, I love branding and I love developing my people, and this really sits at the intersection of that. So I have to do it. And by the way, and it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm going to make $1 million. I did think it was going to be lucrative, which I will tell you it was not. For many, many years, people didn't know what personal branding was, and they certainly didn't want to buy any of it. So by the way, when I joined the other 4 who were doing it, 2 years later, they were gone because they wanted to do something that, allowed them to buy food. So it was not a business idea, really. It was like I was meant to do this. I was, Tom Peters was talking to me. And it's my job to kind of make this happen. And I never, despite the fact that I sold my stock and I sold my options and I went into debt and all of that, I never considered, people would say, well, do you think maybe, it's not going to be a thing and maybe you should do something else? I couldn't imagine doing anything else after that. So, and voila, look at where we are today.
You bet wisely, William. That was a smart move.
And what about you, Michelle? I mean, when did you first start latching on the idea that, listen, personal branding, maybe I should spend more time talking about this, or maybe it's something that I want to do? I mean, because in the initial days, I can tell you that when I first heard about personal branding, I would say the majority of people would say, well, I'm not a bar of soap, you know, like that was the
Yeah.
big thing. I had to convince them of that. And then there was a small percentage, like say 30% say, yeah, okay, you know, personal branding, you know, fine. Why? Tell me why it's important. Tell me why it's important. I get it. And then the third group was, okay, now tell me how to do it. Now it's a much smaller percentage of people who say, I'm not a bar of soap. They still say that. But now more people are going, now how do I do this? How do I do this? But so I'm curious about, you know, where you saw that moment of I need to work on this and leverage it.
I just saw the power once I realized and I started putting myself out there, and I just really latched on to personal branding. And then I realized for me, I'm always the thinker, like there's all this surface level stuff. How do you do it? So it became my mission to find this framework that I could really help with the positioning and the messaging. I saw those are the two areas that people really struggled. We all knew it was great. Let's get really concrete. We all have the stuff. Just put yourself out there, even build your brand, be you. That's all good. But people came to me and go, Michelle, how do I do that? So it became a mission. I had this 7-step framework back then. And this year I really worked hard all year to bring it down to the 4-step own your lane. And it's really finding the category of you. Even more so than 1997, when the amazing Tom Peters, who could have never projected in the world that the social media, the internet would take over and the need for personal branding is just paramount, would he you know, just assume. So I got really granular in my work over the years, just really helping people with their positioning, messaging. Because you know what the one thing is, when I see people push back and become, you know, hidden and held back, as I say, it's not for their expertise, most likely. It is because their inability to articulate their difference and even communicate that. So that's what I became my mission. You know, I feel like in the personal branding sphere, there's so much. It's like the sphere of marketing. There's a lot of it. So we all need to find our little, you know, narrow lane, as I call it. And so that's what I've really dived into. And it's just been tremendous for the opportunities that I see. And I combine it with publicity and PR to really elevate it and be a tandem approach. And it's just gangbusters. You know, I've moved now into 100% speaking and writing, not so much creative one-on-one work. But the clients that are coming back to me, like, Michelle, I got another PR hit. I got this and this. So the power of it is tremendous, to take your expertise, the problem you solve, and bring it out there for the greater good for yourself and for others. And that's why I love personal branding.
And you know, I think that Dana did a good job of sharing kind of the story of how she got into it. And you mentioned also your four levels there. So I think there are 4 layers. So like, you know, I think that I'd love to hear from each of you your different kind of models you have for personal branding. So Dan, I'll go to you first. You know, we all have different ways in which we express personal branding. Like, you know, we define personal brand, and then we have, this is kind of the model that I use. And I'd love to see what you guys have and how it's maybe different. So Dan, let's start with you. You know, do you have like a particular model you use that, and how you define personal branding, and then what kind of model do you use for it?
Yeah, I love that question. I would say I just want to add on to what Michelle was saying is I've noticed over the years being a career transition coach was people struggle with articulating their value and what truly differentiates them. And what I find is that when I teach personal branding, it makes more sense to them because it can tell their story, their narrative, the taglines. And so I think that's really what was really helped people like think about how to do personal branding. So my model, I feel like it's evolved over the years. I've always had this 5P models that I teach where I go through the product, which is all about you. What are the words to describe your features, strengths, and qualities? And then to the potential of like, what's your track record of success, to the packaging, which is like how you want people to see you. So that's like the 5 Ps I've always been teaching. I have a course on that. But until recently this year, because I also transitioned from career coaching into business coaching, I've evolved into a model called the brand model, which is what I posted yesterday, which is around being authentic. I really believe that when you are more authentic, you are more magnetic. And the second is around continue to refine your message, which is the R, refining your message and audience, because when we continue to fine tune that messaging and audience, that's how we can really attract them into our world other. And then the A is around adding value. So I tie this into networking because I really believe branding and networking go in hand. So how do you continue to add value to build the know, like, and trust factor so that people will remember you to stay top of mind? And then N is around the networking consistently, paying it forward. I really believe in that. And then lastly is delivering results. So ultimately, if you want to have a great brand, you got to help people get results, have that reputation for excellence, higher standard in order to elevate. And when you have that track record, you elevate your market value, which means the potential to earning more as well. So that's how my models have evolved over the years based on my audience and how I've been teaching it.
Okay, what about you, the godfather of personal branding, William? What would you say?
Well, Tom Peters is the godfather, but thank you for saying
Okay.
that. You know what? So the good news is I had no business at all when I started my company. And so I literally had nothing but time on my hands to come up with, what should this be? And I came up with a 3-step process that I still use to this day: know, show, and grow. Know is about uncovering your brand. Show is telling your story, and grow is expanding your brand visibility, availability, and value. And I will tell you the cool thing about it is I was lonely because there were no other people doing personal branding. So I started certifying people in that methodology. And now there are more than 1,000 people using the same methodology with all of their people. And it's become this incredible ripple effect all over the world. Last year, I was in Sao Paulo delivering a keynote for an organization called PBEX, which was founded by people who'd been certified in the methodology, and they are certifying people in Latin America. And so it's just like a personal branding love fest of this one methodology. The one thing I want to say about it is no, and here's my big concern. I'll use the word. People in personal branding today, but personal branding pre-social media, people really did want to focus a lot on what is my brand, who am I, what makes me great, why should people care, and so forth. I think with the social media entering the scene, people just wanted to be visible for the sake of visibility, and it's not necessarily tied to who they are and what they're about. So I think the know phase is so incredibly important, and a lot of people want to skip it and get to the sexy stuff and being visible and creating videos and doing all this stuff. But know is important, and the most important part of know, I mean, the introspection and figuring out who you are is important, but the most important part is getting feedback on your brand, because I think a lot of people build their brand around something that's not really true and authentic and real, because their self-perception is not necessarily how they deliver value to the marketplace. And so I think being able to validate self-perceptions with external feedback, I created a whole product on it because there was no way to get that data. But being able to validate it, it helps you refine your thinking, and it's nuanced, but then you get really crystal clear about your brand.
I love that. I was going to echo William. I had hundreds of my clients do a perception survey exercise, and it's always so eye-opening to them and actually helps them to see, okay, how does the world see me, to better articulate their story and value proposition. So I love that you mentioned that there.
No, I
We're
love
so
that too.
close to it. Yeah, we're just too close to ourselves. Of course.
Yeah, I love that too, because I mean, I've had people over the years that don't want to ask their network for feedback on the brand. Like, it is primarily based on how they experience you. Like, you want to based on your own personal experience. That is not the way to do it, and people hesitate. So I think that is a huge part of the brand, like getting people to give you feedback and serving them. I think that's great. And that's kind of part of my model too. But Michelle, tell us a bit more about your definition model too.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Much like Diana's, mine was a 7-step, 7 Ps. And I realized, in our day and age, we have just too much information. This needs to be simplified. And as I was writing Own Your Lane, this book, I got into it. So Own Your Lane is very much a lot of what William and Diana have echoed. And my take is I'm helping the hidden expert get out there and become the visible authority. And it's led with impact and purpose. And so the first one is of the lane framework is L. Launch your purpose. We're going to get out there when we have a bigger reason and why, based on your professional purpose, your beliefs that are really out there. That'll keep us in the game. We're here for others and to impact ourselves. Double win. So first is launch your purpose. Number 2 is assert your difference. Much like William said, we have to know what makes us different. Own Your Lane is about finding the category you. And so for me, people, like you both said, they have a really hard time. So I say, let's just start with the problem you're going to solve. Because at the end of the day, I'm solving professional obscurity. So we lead with the problem we're going to solve for this one particular entity we're here for. No matter if you're in corporate or you're in business, whatever, we're going to basically be solving a problem with our expertise. And so I really help them get their unique edge factor, if you will, when I write, in the framework. Then we go into navigate your presence. Then that's where the cohesion of the personal brand, online, offline, networking, all that comes into play. Even LinkedIn is a big part of it. I consider LinkedIn your personal brand website. Then we get into where I talked about the PR and publicity aspects, your PR pyramid, your publicity toolkit that I help them build. Just the basics. None of this is hard. It's all in a 1-page visibility roadmap. So you have all the tools, the insights, on how you're getting out there, how you're solving problems for others, and also bringing yourself more opportunity, impact, and growth, all by owning your lane and becoming the category of one. Or view, excuse me, the category of you. So there you go.
Okay, I love that. And I'll share my model, which is basically which I've built up over the years, but essentially it's based on DYPB. So discover, design, and deploy your personal brand. So the way it works is kind of similar to what William said, which is most people are stuck in the design phase. They're designing, work on their assets, trying to stand out, putting stuff out there, all this kind of stuff. And they don't take the time to discover, which is, doing the surveys and talking to people and getting feedback and doing some self-assessments, doing some online assessments, and doing all those things to really discover and understand who you are. Most people are there in the design phase and then they deploy out there. And so what happens is they design this stuff, which is maybe 55, 65% aligned, and then they deploy it, and then their content strategy doesn't have the results after 6 months, or their business development strategy doesn't have the same results after 18 months. Or their career growth strategy after 2 years, like, I'm still not aligned with what's going on here. And so if they actually did the deep dive work to really discover their personal brand, when they design something, now it's going to be more 85, 95% aligned. So when you deploy, you're going to have way more success and way more impact and way more alignment. So for me, that's kind of the reason why, that's kind of my model that I use to say that, because most people don't want to do the deep dive work. They always want the shortcuts. And, that actually leads to my next question, which is, why don't people want to do the deep dive work? And I'll start with you, William.
Yeah, I honestly think it's because it's hard. It's not necessarily clear how valuable and necessary it is, and it's way more fun. Having a great LinkedIn profile and publishing books and writing articles and being on stage and all that stuff. So I just think I think that's part of it, and I also think the other thing that's happened is what real personal branding is, or at least what I think it is. It really is. It's deep and it's human and it's existential. It's why we're here and how we can use that to help other people. And I think that there's a whole group of people who think about personal branding as creating fame and getting there are two kinds of influencers, for example, and I have a big issue with one kind of influencer. There are the influencers who are passionate about something. There's a woman named Penn Smith. She's out in Seattle. She loves everything about skincare and health, and she literally tests every single product, and she does all this stuff, and she's an authentic, like, that's her passion, and she exudes it, and she's a wildly successful influencer, and that's the model of influencing. There are a lot of influencers who are actors, and they don't care. They may hate coffee, and they will sip coffee every day because someone's sponsoring them to do that, and people think that's personal branding, and in my definition, it is not. So I think that and sometimes because people don't want to do that hard work. Who are you? Why are you here? How do you want to contribute to the world? What's your unique ingredient? Maybe that's hard, and some people think it's not necessary because I can just create. Look at all this stuff. I have nothing but visibility, opportunities. I can just be everywhere.
Jana, what do you think?
Yeah, I really think where we're getting at is really deeper self-awareness, right? Having really alignment to our truth of our core values of what we stand for, what we believe in, what really represents us at the end of the day. And so when I think about personal branding, I do believe we have to start to do the deep work, even though it is hard, it takes time. But when you do that, to me, this is what makes you more memorable. So as an example, even for me, over the years, I believe it's not just about your expertise and what you're known for, but it's part of how do you want to show up? How do you want to live your life? So as an example, I feel like a lot of people in my network know that I have a huge thing for self-care and networking. So I always talk about making yourself a strategic priority. And I love talking about it, not just posting content about the importance of self-care, but actually living it. So I think part of it, it's hard for people to feel like, okay, I need to also live by the truth of what I stand for, what I believe in, and for people to see that. But at the same time, when you actually do that, that's how people see, hey, I vibe with you. I want to do business with you. I want to connect with you there.
Michelle, your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. What you're both describing is I always call it, is it a fluffy personal brand or foundational? And that's it. You know, we're looking at you, some of those Instagram, we can see right through it now, right? We need, especially after all we've gone through in the last almost 5 years, we need real and relatable, especially with the advent of AI. There's more human connection needed more than ever. We don't need more information. We need more connection and transformation. And personal branding, when done right, will do that. But here's the thing. I know anything in life that's worth anything, investing in yourself is so worth it when you know who you are, what you stand for, what you stand even against, what you'll get on a soapbox for, no matter what. It brings you to the core of your humanity. People see that. And we need realness going forward in 2025 and beyond. So do the work. My Own Your Lane has made it super easy to do, but still strategic, because you're just skipping. It's like building a house without a really, solid foundation. You're just going to not, it'll look good, but what is it really truly to hold up when the times are tough, right? So when you invest in yourself, you're really, as I say, own your lane, own your future. And that's truly for yourself and for others. And I think doing that makes the world just one person change, one impact at a time. We can all have that ripple effect of goodness.
As somebody who, is big on vulnerable storytelling, I would say one of the biggest issues is that there's a certain vulnerability about the process, right? So letting people give you feedback on who you are, what they like about you, what they don't like about you. I think that prevents a lot of people from wanting to do that process. I think the other part that William said is the work. It is a lot of work. Because I tell people, look, are you willing to invest, 40, 50 hours of your time for, 500,000 hours of fulfillment, alignment, impact, and joy? And if you are, then why don't you do the 50 hours of work? But it's a lot of work, but it's also, it's hard because you have to hear from people what they maybe disagree with about you, or what they experience that maybe you don't want to hear it. And so that vulnerability thing is very difficult for a lot of people to share out there. So I think that becomes a big challenge. We are doing this live stream with the TLB Club, Thought Leader Brand Club. You can check out the club and all the events that we're doing. We do a monthly live stream. We do weekly Zoom calls. And we have 3 amazing personal brand experts along with myself to share knowledge. And you can share questions too as well. Share where you're from, share questions. And you click the QR code to check out what TLB Club is all about. Check out the events we have coming up. And if you want to become a member, you totally can. But there are some questions coming up already. So I want to make sure that we get to them. And one was what's the most constructive way to get feedback from your network? I think that's a question that has come up. Would anyone like to take that on?
I would love to, and this is not an advertisement for my product, but I do have a product that allows you to do it. And the things you need to think about, and this is what I thought about in creating the product, is it needs to be anonymous, or people aren't going to tell you what they really think. You can't go ask people, what do you think about me? What words would you use to describe me? Because they don't want to hurt your feelings. And they also, they just feel put on the spot. So you need to make sure that it's anonymous. You need to make sure it gets the right kind of data. Right? We won't want to hear, oh, you're really good, or we need really specific, precise kinds of descriptions so that we really understand the nuance of who we are. And it needs to come from all of the different people you look to impact, influence, and impress. So when you know that community of people, so that you can get some true 360 feedback around you. So friends, family, networking contacts, managers, employees, everyone around you, then you're able to get a true not everyone in the world, right? But the people who are in your audience. I think that you can get some data that you can rely on, and you can do a comparative analysis between what you did learn about yourself and how other people see you, and then try to make sense of it. And I think that's the key. I will say, in talking about how people don't want to do it, that I have experienced all the time. Although I have this one professional services client company where all these folks are constantly, they didn't want to send to clients. And then they realized, oh my gosh, if I send this to my former clients, I am asking for something really important, and they're seeing how much I value their opinion. And then they started using it kind of as a sales and marketing thing, where I'm going to send them and ask for feedback and tell them how much I really appreciate them and their feedback. And it rekindled relationships with clients from the past. So there are some hidden benefits and ways, I think, to inspire people to seek out and do something with feedback.
Yeah. I was going to add on, like, one of the things we can do with this feedback is creating a word cloud as well, to help you look at themes that describe your brand. Some of the questions, like one of the grassroots way that I've got some of my clients to do is sending out a Google survey, asking questions like, what problems do people come to me for? What words would you describe my communication style or leadership style? What do you really value about me? And even recently, as a business owner, speaking to your clients, like, why did they hire you? What do you feel really truly differentiates you or your product and program services? And that's going to really help you come up from the messaging as well to help target the right audience there. I find that really, really helpful beyond just a survey, but actually conduct these live interviews there.
I've seen this, even not myself, but I've seen people do this successfully. For those that are active on LinkedIn, ask in a poll, which I know is a completely different approach. And I think every sides in every way can lend some data. It's just when you think of me or the content I put out, what comes to mind, and that they don't even have to think of it. And yes, you're going to get some far out responses. For the most part, you can see patterns. So I think testing in all these different ways gives us the clues. I love the humanity aspect of the tool that you just talked about, because that does speak to us. We want to get better and get relatable. So I love that aspect too. So definitely don't think of it as hard work. It is an investment in you, and it also has pluses, as you just said, for others to connect that you care for them and their views and their perspectives on you as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I do surveys too as well. And I think that, you know, anonymous is a great insight. I sometimes also like to get, you know, 5 to 10 people who I know really, really well to just have a deep personal conversation with them to find out these things. Polling people, and, you know, I think, and a very simple thing, even without doing, like, I have my own personal brand audits and my own tools that I use. And listen, you guys can promote your stuff. I'm happy you're here. Follow these people. Make sure you follow them. Check out their stuff. Check out their products. Hire them. You can hire us too, but I'm just, you know, I want everyone to promote themselves. The simple thing I tell people is like, well, what are the 5 questions people always ask you, right?
Mm-hmm.
At work or wherever you go. So people ask, Bobby, how do you get a TEDx talk? Bobby, how do you get 500,000 followers on Twitter? Bobby, how do you become a paid speaker? Like, those are questions people ask me, and so they become things that become part of my personal brand. But then the other thing was, what are the 5 things you like to talk about? You know, so I like to talk about social justice and equality, and you know, helping marginalized communities, and so that's something that's going to become part of my brand that I'm going to talk about. Because the things that I also want to talk about are also going to be things that I want to create a brand around too. So that's kind of what I do. Now, we have a lot of questions. People from all over the world are actually in this live stream, which is kind of great. I'm loving that. Another question is how do you, this is from Rashim Stewart, how do you promote yourself without sounding arrogant?
Let me jump in on that. I think personal branding is part show and part tell. And the show part's more important than the tell part. When you demonstrate value consistently over and over and over, people experience it, they're able to understand it, and they're able to talk about it on your behalf. So the more you can demonstrate what makes you great in a really authentic, unique way, the more people are able to understand it without you having to say a word. There is also a tell part. Right. And you know, you need an online bio, because people are checking you out online and they need to know what you're about. There's your elevator pitch. And I think a couple of things around that. One is if you put it in the perspective of the value that you're delivering to others and not look at me, people will not read it as sounding arrogant. And there's so many ways to word things, and also bring in other people. So I'm so proud to be part of a community of people who are doing X. So the whole thing is an I, me. I think that can make you feel better that you're not sounding arrogant. But I would really focus on the show rather than the tell.
It's a good point. Leading with the problem you solve and just constantly getting out there, demonstrating it in various ways on social, in person, even bringing in the third party endorsements, the social credibility, the credibility markers, as you say, with other people, speaking and other things, bringing publicity. And yes, I have clients who say, but I'm not ready for publicity yet. And I say, yes, you are. It's a stair step. The media needs voices like you all the time. They're actively searching. One of the benefits since 1997, when Tom Peters was talking about personal branding, we have so many digital channels and outlets that are constantly needing. So you start small and you get out there. So that third party is another endorsement of other people saying, yes, this person is an expert, or, you know, interviewing you or quoting you, whatnot. So I think also too, William, you said it right. watch your eyes. I this, I this, I this, I this. People see right through it and just move on and don't listen. So when we have a you or we approach, it's a lot more, conversational and approachable, and we listen. So that's my take on it.
I love that. I would add on here. One of the things I do with my clients is really shifting your perspective. Instead of thinking that you are selling yourself, think of how you're being of service. And when you look at being of service mindset, you would own your value more, and you're going to want to voice it more. And one of the formulas I always talk about is to help people be more confident in voicing their value is first you got to identify that value that you bring to the table, like mapping out your proud accomplishments, list of that, but you may not believe in it yet. So the next stage is really believing in your value. This is where we need to work on our mindset, having the affirmation, visualizations, like really, really believing it. And then you start owning it so that you can start voicing your value as well, so that you become more magnetic. The other thing I would say is to go gather testimonials. So for those who are, whether they're business owners or who are the job seekers, get people to write testimonials on your LinkedIn, for example. And that's a great way of how people are describing you. Like this morning, someone asked me who was interested in hiring me. This prospect husband was asking, like, does she have video testimonials? I was like, yeah, here's my list of dozens of testimonials. Here's a track record of success. That makes the close of what you're trying to get much, much easier because you have proof, evidence of support. It's not bragging, it's fact.
Yeah, I would add, go ahead, William. I
just want to share one quick thing. I agree with everything you guys are saying. For me, the other thing that's really important is storytelling. I love storytelling, vulnerable storytelling. By telling the story, not that's made up, a real one, a real story, you're going to create authentic connection with people. You're going to showcase that value. And even when you talk with the fact that, hey, here's a story behind how I got 5 TEDx talks, or here's a story behind how I did this or how I did that, then it's a little bit better. It comes across a little better in a more authentic way. So the storytelling piece, and I also believe talking about the struggle is very, very important too. And then we're going to get into that in a second, but I want to hear what Michelle wanted to add.
No, yeah, exactly that. None of us are perfect. We can't lead with that perfection persona. One of the things I love that your point for testimonials, going back to that other question, mine your, testimonials and your recommendations to see those things, but also whenever you get someone say something good about you and just without prompting, I screenshot it and I call it the wall of love. And I put it on my website. There's a whole page of community feedback. This is unsolicited stuff, just in the realm. I didn't make it up. It's just a screenshot. And then you can just see a track record. And so I think having the solicited, the unsolicited, all the ways that can tell the story of you and validate you without you having to say, I'm so good, I'm so great. Because as you said, Diana, I look at personal branding as service. It's not of self, it's of service, really, which, in turn is driven by yourself, but it is of impact. So I think when you lead with impact and value and transformation, it just naturally, translates to that you are in a position of building that strong personal brand.
I love that, Michelle, because I have this thing when someone sends me a really nice message or note, I create a folder in my Gmail called motivators, so that whenever I'm feeling down about myself, I'll go in there and read something. Oh, okay, you know what? Okay, I'm on purpose. I'm feeling good. This is nice. It motivates me because we all have our down days or our dark days and things like that, which is also a transition now to another question I have for you guys. Look, you guys are the top of your game and top of your field when it comes to personal branding and being thought leaders in the field of personal branding. That's why we do this monthly live stream. We bring in the best thought leaders in different topics. And personal branding to me is a huge part and aspect of the journey to building thought leadership. But what about the times where it wasn't going well? So I was curious whether if any of you had a moment where you made a mistake in your personal brand, or you did something that maybe wasn't the right way to go, and things like that. I just love to hear. Again, I like to be vulnerable. I like to be open about that. And if you want, I'll start. Okay, just to give you something. So one of the first bonehead moves I did back in the day was I literally bought followers for my Facebook page, because I thought, if I buy these followers, I'll be able to get traction. And people, oh, he's got 10,000 followers on his Facebook page. Okay, cool. That's really cool. And what ended up happening was I paid the money for this guy to do it. And then first off, I didn't realize that, and of course I didn't have my knowledge there. I didn't know if Facebook only showed stuff to a certain percentage, but at the same time, those followers weren't that great. And eventually they started to fade away. And I got back down to where it was before in about 6 months. And it's like, man, okay, that was, you know what, I gotta. So now wherever I build, I just try to build organically, and that was just a really, really boneheaded move on my part to realize that you can't buy that stuff. You need to, really invest in organic growth. So there's one of my bad moves. Anyone else want to share something?
I think just in general terms, I think in the year, maybe, I don't know, like 2022, 2023, I just, we can get in our own heads. And one of the things with Own Your Lane, in addition to solving professional obscurity, is helping to solve comparisonitis. It's an invisible disease that really steals and zaps our potential. And I think, I got too caught into seeing what other people were doing, right? And while that's good, and I'm happy for them, you can go down a spiral. So I want to caution that while you're building your brand, you're going to be exposed to a lot of things coming at you. And it's so important to just really sometimes, one of the things I like to say about Own Your Lane is when you own your lane, you never feel lost. I want to always feel that I'm going to be so positive for others. Everyone has their own opportunity, their own slice of the pie, right? We're all unique and in our own new way. And so I saw myself kind of go in a really dark place where I didn't even want to post on social media. It could just really spiral you out. And it took me just really kind of getting back to center, really examining some stuff, starting to talk to people. I think that really helps and validates you back. So I want to caution, as you're getting visible and you're staying out there consistently, not every day is going to be smooth. And that's okay. And that's actually normal and expected. But just remember, I like to say, my new thing now is I tell myself, they're in their lane, I'm in mine. And, I'm very happy for them. But, they could just be farther ahead than me. They're not necessarily better than me. They're just farther ahead than me. So I think we have to have a strong mindset when we're building our brands to stay out there and stay committed to the cause.
That is really, really good advice for everyone. And I think everyone can use it, whether they're pursuing personal branding or not. I will tell you my big mistake. I don't know if it was, if we don't have enough time for all my mistakes in my business, but the most recent one I think is COVID. When COVID hit, I had my entire next year all booked for speaking. Most of my business is speaking, most of my revenue is speaking. And literally it just came to an end. I ended up with $4,000 in my American Airlines bank account and no work. And I literally mourned the loss of my speaking business, and it really had become my identity. Like, people would ask what you do, and I would start with, I'm a public speaker. And it took me a while to figure out what was going on. And then I don't know how this happened. I just decided, oh my gosh, this is a whole new world of public speaking. I am going to devote all this time where I have no business to what does it take to captivate online? Because everything moves online and nobody really does online meetings well, and nobody does online presentations well. So literally I devoted 2 entire years to what does it take to captivate online? How do you run meetings? How do you deliver presentations? And how do you get people really excited about you when you're talking to them on a 13-inch screen that strips the humanity from your engagement? And the thing is, it's exactly what I went through when I started personal branding process in a company in the first place. Is I have nothing but time. I'm going to create something, and somehow I lost that thread. Like, oh look, this is a new opportunity. And so I think just taking a step back, I was just too caught up in my own little, this is what I do, and that was my identity. And I think having just a bigger picture perspective. Now I have a whole new business line. I have 300 pages of a book. I don't know if I'm going to publish it, around captivating online. And it wouldn't have happened if I didn't somehow, get myself out of my own funk.
I think in the early days of me being a professional speaker, I kept focusing that, what do you do for a living? I said, I'm a speaker. And I realized that eventually that's wasn't what I should be positioning. It was like, what's my expertise? Because it's like, well, my expertise is actually, personal branding, leadership, thought leadership. And then that's where the book, the programs, the coaching, and the topics all came into play. And I realized that's what I had to position myself from a branding perspective. But Dan, I'd love to hear from you as well.
Yeah. I think so. For me, it was really learning the importance of being more authentic in storytelling and being more vulnerable. So for me, I feel like I've always had a very polished brand, or maybe because this is like my upbringing, that I want to just showcase the best version of me there. And I remember receiving, I wouldn't say feedback, I guess someone asked me, or a post comment was like, we want to see also more of the real you, behind the scenes you. And so this was back in 2020, 2021, when I started doing more storytelling posts, where I start sharing my struggles of moving to Canada when I was 16, imposter syndrome, English is not my first language, how I struggled to speak up, softest voice in class. And that took a lot out of me, I would say, because I never shared that. But because I started sharing that, I believe that's what led me to LinkedIn Top Voice as well, because of the storytelling. So I had to learn to lean into that. And over the years, I started even sharing, like when I had my second child, how I had like postpartum depression, how that was really hard. It impacted me. And then the past few years, I started even sharing like my lifestyle, that I only work 20, 24-hour work week. And at first I felt embarrassed sharing it, because I was like, what if people judge me? But then what I realized by doing that, just go back to the power of storytelling, was it connected better with my audience. So I feel like that has been my big learning in the last several years. And I think even my own personal growth, where I'm really owning my voice, my value, even my confidence, just believe in myself a lot more. I knew back in the day in school that I wanted to be a professional speaker, but I had this limited belief, because I told myself English is not my first language, softest voice in class, that I don't have what it takes to step on these big stages, like the Tony Robbins and all that. But when I flip that script and being more vulnerable, sharing my stories, it's what led me to speaking on bigger stages there.
And I think that leads to a really important aspect, which your personal brand is always evolving. You have to be willing to listen to people and to see how it evolves. So, for example, in 2024, I decided to launch my whole TEDx program, right? Because what had happened was I was doing speaker masterminds and storytelling, and I was talking about, but people were like, Bobby, I did 5 TEDx talks. Why don't you tell people with that? And I saw that TEDx actually landed well with storytelling, speaking, personal branding, thought leadership, content strategies. So, you know what, let's just do that. And so I changed it and I evolved it, because I think it's important to listen to that. And now, like, this fall, I'm looking at what's happening next year. I'm thinking about one of the things I'm doing differently next year is I'm thinking about vulnerable storytelling, because I do talk about my weight issues, diabetes, ADHD, binge eating, and I do that very openly. And I think that a lot of people like that. So I think I want to teach people how to do that. So I'm also evolving and changing how I do stuff, which leads to my next question, which is, what do you see as a future in terms of how personal branding will be part of workplace, part of your life, and maybe anything that you're thinking about doing a little bit different, how you're evolving as an expert, but also with your own personal brand. Let's start with you, Michelle.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I posted today actually 7 tips to be a real and relatable you and your personal brand. And one of the things I referenced was there early this year, there was some research by Bain & Company, LinkedIn, and I forget someone else. It was tied to B2B buyers, but it was saying the emotional connection is what resonates. So with the more and more AI, yesterday I just watched a video where they're training robots now to watch, YouTube videos so they can, take on a whole nother level. We're about to hit high level AI. There's a word for it, I can't remember, but with the rise of AI and robots, the human connection factor has to stay strong. I love AI. I'm not against it. I think it's for, great for productivity, but it also takes away our critical reading, writing, and thinking skills. And not to say, let's keep the human connection, the human impact, the human inspiration, the human intelligence part, right? So I think personal branding is what it is as a whole, when done right, foundationally, not fluffy, with impact for others to, boost ourselves. I think it's part of our humanity that we need to bring in the company setting and the business setting, and even a solo, whoever you are, we need to know who you are and the value you bring. So I'm all for it, and I think getting really clear, narrow laned, as you said, Bobby, differentiated even more so with the brand, is going to really propel you even farther in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, I want to follow on, because I think AI is the best opportunity for us to be human. The vast amount of tech and the speed at which it's entering the workforce is so huge that the only thing that we can offer that it can't is our humanity. So I think that we're finally getting to the point where I wished we were 20 years ago, where what people have to offer is their ability to relate to others, their ability to ideate as a community together and to create new things. Part of the challenge with AI is it's good at spitting out a bunch of stuff that it has. It's not as good, at least not yet, at creating new stuff. right? It'll create new stuff from old stuff, but it literally, there's some kind of derivative process happening. I think that we as human beings can do things that hopefully never technology will be able to do. So that's our opportunity. I think what people are doing right now, though, is they're fighting the wrong battle. So for example, I write for Forbes. My contract is 5 articles a month, and I do my 5 a month. Now they're incentivizing us to do 10 a month because there's so much noise in the marketplace that their content's getting, lost. So, well, now we're going to do 10. Well, what's going to happen when everyone else is doing 10 and then we're going to be doing 20? And so I think that we're going to move to a situation where quality is also going to be appreciated way more than quantity. And even in the communities that we build, they're going to be stronger, maybe smaller communities who really dig and get our stuff. And so I think all this tech that's happening is actually, it's finally freedom for us to be human and acknowledge the stuff that we can do that can't be done by computers.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I have a huge value for human connection. So for me, I'm really doubling down on the human connection piece through experiential events, masterminds, retreats, to really bringing people closer. Ultimately, it's really building the know, like, and trust factor there. And I see right now, looking at the job market itself, having been a career coach, is that I believe it's more important than ever right now to double down on personal branding, because that's how you're going to really elevate in terms of the know, like, and trust factor, elevating that credibility, visibility, and your markability, being an in-demand, whether it's a coach, speaker, an expert in your space. I think that's more important than ever there. I'll tell a funny story about AI here. Yesterday, I used an AI generator to help me make this one video. I had my digital twin because I accidentally deleted a video from a course. So I was like, okay, instead of putting on my makeup to record this again, why don't I use this to upload it? And what happened was the body language did not match what I was saying. So when I said first, AI gave me 3 fingers. When I said second, it gave me like 1 finger. And I was like, I can't use this. The amount of time I spent doing this, I might as well just record it today, record that video. So the human connection piece is really, really important there.
Well, and AI is a fantastic tool. I invested a lot of AI last year to see what the platforms would do. And then what ended up happening was that some of them got really, really good and some of them not so much. So I basically have now canceled half of them, but now I have my 4 or 5 platforms I use all the time. And I think that if you're going to use AI, it's a great tool, but you also have to add your personal touch to it, and don't just focus on that one thing and do that. So I think that's important. Now, I was kind of hoping we'd have something we disagree on, but I don't think so, because I think we're all very, very aligned. But I think one way to kind of get into it is I kind of want to ask you as one of the last questions. I know we're only here for another 5-6 minutes, guys, and I know people are asking questions in the chat. Look, you can continue to. This will be recorded. This is live streaming everywhere. You can tag people and ask the questions as well. But all these questions I'll try to get to as well, and maybe the other speakers can as well. But maybe what I'd like to understand from each of you is something that you talk about personal branding that's kind of unique to you, that maybe that other people aren't always talking about. That might be interesting to kind of understand that, because even though we all have similar models and similar beliefs on personal branding, what's something that you like to uniquely talk about when it comes to helping people with personal branding? And I'll start with you, Dan, and then go to William.
Yeah, I like to really take personal branding from an inside-out approach. One of my guiding philosophies right now is, how do you design a business that aligns with the lifestyle that you want? And in order to get clear on that, is we need to really get clear on your vision, your values, that inner approach there. And from there, like, really looking at, okay, well, what is it that you want to stand for? Like, what are your core beliefs? What do you truly stand for? Because I believe when you own your light and that you really stand out, like, that's how, when you have the upper hand, to be more in demand there. So part of it is getting people to believe in that, and to also create something. What I do right now with a lot of my clients is create that signature, whether it's the talk or the course or something that you can be talking about over and over again, so that you also be memorable. But I'll also add in, like, your personality, your differentiation factors there, those sound bites, those punchlines to make you stand out. I really come from that differentiation standpoint of, like, what makes you unique and memorable.
How about you, William?
You know what? I have been on a tear for a long, long time about the importance of mastering video. I have to say, now that we've moved, and this is way before that flip switched and the switch flipped, and we moved to, I guess you didn't like that very much, did you? Literally way before COVID and everything went virtual, video is the only online tool that gets us as close to being human as possible. Words only account for 7% of a communication. The 26 letters of the alphabet do not excite people. So we really need to master video, and most people have not been trained, are afraid of it, or are just not willing to engage. There are people who are attending meetings with their video camera off, and this is the biggest personal branding opportunity there is, right? And they're dusting and they're vacuuming while, you know, they're multitasking what's going on. And so I do think I'm working with folks to figure out, how do you use video that fits with you and your brand? Is it, you know, synchronous video, asynchronous video? How are you going to incorporate it into what you do? The people who master video, especially as we get all of this noise in the marketplace and are using video in a powerful, engaging, really interactive way, I think are going to be the most successful. So that's my pitch for everybody here. If you want to learn something that's going to be valuable to you and your personal brand, learn video.
Yeah, bravo. For me, I think it's just to simplify the entire personal branding process, and the way that I see it, really standing out, position yourself, have a takeaway message. You know, what is that message you want to bring out? We need simplification in all that we do. You have a simple message, a simple way to get out there. And for me, it's wrapped up in Own Your Lane and this roadmap. We make plans for everything in our lives: career, school, retirement, wealth, financial. So why not have a visibility plan? And with that is those 4 components led by, you know, impact, purpose, opportunity, impact, and growth. So if I can make it really simple in the way that I see it, and that people can get out there at the end of the day, I want more people to get out there, share their expertise, their purpose, their mission, which in turn, you know, just pays it forward for everybody. So I think all of us here have demonstrated, sadly, we didn't have any contrary and too bad views, that we all are here for the same purpose. And so I just want to thank you, Bobby, for the opportunity to be amongst all you stellar, just standout people and personal branding experts. I'm honored to be here today.
I love that. And I'll say the one thing that I talk about that's a little bit different than most people is, like, you know, personal branding is often talked about as a means to, you know, stand out and get noticed and, you know, create that impact. And I think that's very, very important. The one thing I tell people is, like, look, if you really do the deep dive work into personal branding, you will get alignment. You will feel more purposeful. You will have more focus and direction. And I cannot tell you how important it is to get that feeling, because the moment you feel on brand, on target, on purpose, and you can see how your life's going to unfold, you're going to want the rest of your life to start right away. And it's very, very exciting. It's very interesting. And I've now kind of aligned that personal branding journey along with my why statement. And I use that to fuel everything that I do for myself and for my clients. So that to me is a really, really big thing that I try to you know, point out to folks. Now we're at the end of our hour. If you follow these people, make sure you check them all out. They're doing some really great work. If you want to learn more about the TLB Club, by all means, come. We do a weekly Zoom masterclass with a guest speaker. Feel free to come by. I believe Michelle is going to be doing one in January, and if I can convince William and Dan to come by sometime, that'd be great too. But it's free to attend, and then we also have members who get access to the library of 185 master classes. Moving forward, how can we promote or follow you guys? Let's start with Diana, then William, then Michelle. It's your chance to promote, please, promote.
Well, the best way is to connect with me on my LinkedIn at Diana YK Chan, or I also have my YouTube channel, or on my website at mymarketability.com. 2 things that I'm doing in the coming year is really doubling down on hosting mastermind retreats here locally in Toronto, and also international mastermind retreats in Cancun, Mexico. So if you are a business owner, a coach, a speaker, looking to scale your business to 6-7 figures, I would love to connect with you there.
Awesome. William.
Great. Yeah. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn all the time. I engage with a lot of people. I think it's a really powerful place for you to have your community, to be able to connect. And williamarruda.com if you want to learn about any of the things that I'm doing, which I have to say lately seem to change every day because there's so many good, exciting, fun things to work on.
Yeah, thank you again. So mine is Michelle B. Griffin. The B stands for brand. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm there daily. I have 2 new books coming out in the next couple months on the Own Your Lane series, and just to really help you put yourself out there with a plan. So I just want to thank you again and look forward to connecting with you all. Tell me you saw it here. I love context, so we can start a conversation. I think that always is something I share with others. Give us context. We just want to start a conversation and get that human connection factor rolling. So again, thank you, Bobby. Thank you, William. And thank you, Diana, for today. It was amazing.
Thank
My
you so
pleasure.
much.
And thanks for being here. For me, my next TEDx event, the 5-day TEDx challenge, is happening on December 2nd at 6. You basically get 6 hours of my time, an hour each day, trainings, my process, my models, and how you land a TEDx talk guaranteed for 2025. It's a $100 investment, but look, it's $100 of you getting access to me, the community, the resource, the replays. We want people with some skin in the game, so that's why it's $100. So you'll do the work versus the stuff I've done for free. So that's coming up. I encourage you to check out this QR code and take a look at that. And then, of course, the TLB Club is a mastermind group of small business owners trying to level up, and we help them with coaching, resources, and all these amazing things, including live streams like this every month. So check out TLB Club, and you can learn more about that. I want to thank Michelle, William, and Dana for a great chat today. This is being streamed everywhere, so make sure you follow up by following them and check out their stuff and ask any questions. And remember, your personal brand is one of the best things you can invest in. So invest in yourself, invest in your life, and create the impact for you and the people that you serve. So thanks so much, everybody. So long.